really tough week for you guys. Just what's this week been like? You're trying to process an unimaginable loss, and you got to get ready for a big football game at the same time.
Yeah, it's been a tough week. And that part's a process. A team that's grieving, and I think Coach Frost does a really good job with our team in explaining to them that there's a lot more important things than the game of football. That's our families and faith, and that's kind of just the message throughout the team. So those are good things to fall back on when you're dealing with really, really tough stuff. And the staff's obviously hurting. Listen, Coach Clark was as good as it gets as a football coach, but it's cliche when you hear this, but it's so true with him. Just an incredible person and human being, someone I looked up to, someone that mentored me in the last 8 months, a guy that I learned a lot from, was kind of the glue guy for the staff. Larger than life personality, just incredible human being, and we're gonna miss him.
Steve, how you've seen the reaction from the players themselves? How have they been able to handle these kind of things, and what's been the message maybe to them to get through this tough time?
Credit to Coach Frost again, coming back to talking about the same things. When you have purpose in your life and there's an understanding, you don't ride the emotional roller coaster, then we can compartmentalize to get our work done. And our team's done a really nice job of that. And because of how much we all care about Coach Clark, we're going to get the work done, and we're going to do what it takes to prepare to win on Saturdays. That's important. So that's what Coach Clark would have wanted us to do, is to move forward. But yeah, certainly the reality is our guys are hurting, our staff is hurting and grieving for our friend.
Coach, what has it been like with Coach Bear taking up the role now in this situation? What's it been like working with him through this process?
Yeah, Coach Bear is such a pro, and here's a guy on our staff that has known him longer than anybody else and is close to him, was as close to him as anybody else, and he comes in and because of how much he cares about the kids and how much he cares about Coach Clark, his family, and what he represents, he's just, I can't say enough great things about Coach Bear, his knowledge of football, what he's been able to do with these guys, and not just be a football coach, but be a mentor through a really tough time.
Coach, from your observations, how did Coach Clark connect with his players? I mean, clearly, a lot of people loved him.
Yeah, one is just how authentic he is. He's no different with the staff than how he is with the players when we're in meetings or when we're on the practice field. Like, yeah, he's got a bite to him, which every good coach probably needs, in particular the offensive line. But he meets each individual person where they're at. He's just had a crazy ability to be able to relate to anyone. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter if you're from the South or if you're from the West Coast or the East Coast. Just, yeah, he did an incredible job of being able to reach people on a level that's, I don't know, things that I try to do. Like, he's really who he is. He was an extremely authentic person, and I think that the kids, they buy into that.
Obviously, the whole team is grieving, and these are young men. These are young men, still maybe experiencing a death like this for the first time. How have they kind of rallied and supported each other, and how have you and the coaching staff kind of helped in that part of the process?
When you get to be a part of a team, and that's something that we probably all take for granted, when you get to be a part of a team, you have teammates to support you. And grief it's an interesting thing, because you can go 5 minutes and be a normal day, and then you get hit, randomly because of something that reminded you of our friend that passed. So I think just being able to rely on your teammates, and it's no different for us as a staff, just reminding each other how much we love each other and care about each other and why we do this. These things sound cliche, but it's so real when you get to be a part of a team. And, again, credit to Coach Frost and the rest of the staff with how we've really attacked this thing for the last eight months. Like, as a staff and as a team, we know that we can count on each other, and that certainly helps.
What do you feel like you most learned from Coach Clark as a mentor? And then what would you say are maybe your favorite memories that you had of him over the 9 months you guys worked together?
Yeah, well, Coach Clark was really able to help me, you know, when we start from ground one with this offense, and here's a guy with a wealth of experience, and, you know, stress level goes up because you got a lot of work to do in a short amount of time to get there, and Coach Clark's personality and the way he attacks and approaches everything was always with a smile, so that could always bring me back into a lot less dark place, you know. So put it this way, Coach Clark was the light that could illuminate the room and make things a little bit lighter for us. Me in particular, I thought that that is something that I aspire to be more like, and maybe be a little bit less negative at times. Like, he's just super positive, and I'm going to miss that. And definitely that's probably one of the biggest things I'm going to take from his approach, just generally about everything, whether it's how we're going to get the practice scripts put together, and how we're going to get the film watched and the schedule. You know, the way he attacked that was always a little more level-headed, and that's something that I can take. And I'm sure that comes from his wealth of experience as a head coach too. So that was good. And I forgot the second part of your question.
The memories you had over the course of working together?
Well, you know, when we first moved out here and none of our families were in town, we got to spend a lot of time together. So maybe some of those memories are going to stay private.
Coach, you have the Big 12 opener now coming up. Just what are you interested in seeing this team do now that they're going up against a Big 12 defense for the first time this season?
Yeah, our guys are excited to play this game. You know, outside of everything and the grief that we're going through, our players are still excited to play this game. And I think, me personally, what I'm excited to do to see is our guys go out and execute in what's I'm assuming is going to be a relatively hostile environment. It's our first road game. It's our first league game on the road. So I think probably more than anything, I'm excited to see the guys step up to the challenge, which they've done a nice job of, everything that we've thrown at them. No, it's not been perfect, but I think our guys are prepared and ready. And we got a couple more days of work we need to get done, but I think we're excited as a whole and a collective group, and I'm speaking for the offense when I say this. Man, we're excited for the challenge that we're going to get from playing against a really good defense in a hostile environment.
You have a challenge of facing a leader in the Big 12 in fumbles recovered at this point. Just can you talk about what you've done with the team just in terms of ball security?
Yeah, we put a premium on ball security every day. So, you know, whether it's in our stretch periods, like we always have coaches and managers raking at the ball to try to that's our everyday stuff. So not like we did anything like outside of the norm, but yeah, that's been a focus is ball security. That's every day.
Steve, what's been your impressions of Taven Jackson so far, and what he was able to do last week?
Yeah, I mean, Tay's been steadily getting better every day since he got here, and in particular, all things that we talked about a few weeks ago, where he really got the fire lit under his butt when he wasn't announced a starter for the first week, and he's been a pro, and really pleased with the execution of the offense. I think the thing that Tay's doing a really nice job of is we get in a situation where maybe the play wasn't as perfect as we hoped it might be, and the look we might have gave him on scout team, and here we are, we have to play off schedule a little bit, and we have to make some subtle changes. And what he's done a good job of taking care of the football and maybe taking a play that would have been a negative or just a 0-yard gain and turn it into a 2-yard gain. 2nd and 8's a lot easier than 2nd and 10. I think that's one thing that we're proud of what he's been able to do. It's not always going to be the flashy plays, the big-time throws. It's just the simple play of, hey, we really don't have anything here, and we're going to live to play 2nd down, or we're going to turn it into a 2-3-yard gain. Now, of course, some of those types of plays end up being explosive plays too. So that's probably number one thing that I've been pleased with Tay, and then he's consistently becoming more consistent, which is great, and that's what we need from the quarterback position.
Could you take it with the play of your tight end room? A lot of guys made an impact against North Carolina. I think Dylan Wade, even though he went out early, still might have led the team in receptions. Colin Fox got his first touchdown. Caden Peening, for the first time, he was playing a lot for a true freshman. Just kind of talk about that group and how you plan to utilize them this year.
Yeah, right now it's a little bit of tight end by committee. You know, here we are. It's still relatively early in the year, but you throw in fall camp and those other things, so no one's 100%. So that's how it's going to be all year. We're going to have to kind of platoon that position. We do a lot of different things, like we've talked back in fall camp about what the tight end position really is. It's the Swiss Army knife of the offense, so it's good to see all those guys make some plays, but they're learning and growing, and we're not there yet, and that's the cool thing about this game is we get to go back to work tomorrow and continue to get better, and I like to think that we're just going to continue to get better, but we're going to see all those guys play.
Yeah, what did Caden do for a true freshman to make an impact, early on? And I know he missed pretty much the whole preseason, right? I know Coach said he had a hamstring or something, so he was limited early. So what has he shown to, prove that he's worthy of getting out there for such a young guy?
Yeah, one, he's willing to be physical, and he's a bigger person, so he does a good job with that, which is an important part of the game. He's got good feet, he's got good hands, he moves, he's a cerebral kid, it cares, it matters. He's a football guy, so we knew that he was going to contribute this season pretty early on. Unfortunate for him, he had a couple minor setbacks, but yeah, he's getting closer and closer to being where we want him to be, and there's some time left this season for him to continue and grow. But there's a lot of runway for that guy. He's going to be a good player here.
You said it's a committee approach, and you're kind of like shifting, multiple guys in and out on over the course of a series. How are you kind of like finding that sweet spot of how to use these guys and best utilize what they can do in your offense?
Yeah, with the way we manage our personnel, sometimes there's going to be a specific play that we want to have XYZ guy in, and it might be because his skill set's really tailored for the thing we're asking him to do, whether it's a run play, whether it's pass protection, or maybe, hey, this guy's just really good at running that route. But in the course of a game, you might not be in a situation where you can afford to sub. We got the defense in a look that we want to keep them in. If we sub, they sub. Allows them to get fresh D linemen out there. So with that being said, we'll have some specific plays we want, and it's not just the tight ends, it's all positions. There might be a specific play that we want to have XYZ guy in a certain spot so that he can run that play. But there's layers to this thing. Sometimes you can't sub, because you're going to lose your advantage. And then other times there might be a guy that needs to go get Gatorade and he can't play for a couple plays. So all of our players need to know all the positions, and then you only have so many reps in practice. So I know that's kind of a word sandwich for your question, but there's just so many layers to that. But obviously we want to put our players in position to be successful, and sometimes it's going to be like Kylan on a route, or sometimes it might be D-Wade. So it just kind of depends on the situation week by week.
Going into a hostile road environment for the first time, just kind of how do you prepare? I know it's possible really to prepare for what it's going to feel like, but just how much is that a focus this week of just making sure the offense is on the same page?
Yeah, I mean, we'll work the environmental things, like the crowd noise and all that, just, because I'm sure it's going to be loud on third down, it's going to be loud in the red zone, so those are just some of the situations we got to manage, but outside of that, it's no different than preparing for any game. You kind of have to handle all the situations. The wacky thing about situational football is you're always going to be over-prepared for those things, and that takes away from other things you want to do, but as long as we have our bases covered, then you can feel real confident. When that situation does come up, be ready to go.
How do you shift focus? It's really tough. You get serious news Sunday night, Monday morning. It's in the beginning of a game week. I know Monday was tough to process, but how do you sort of get the guys ready for what's going to be a really big game on Saturday?
Yeah, no, it's a great and sad reminder that just the world just keeps moving along, and it's not fair. It's not fair to his family, but it's unfortunately you're reminded just eerily so how the world keeps spinning for everybody else, and it's an awful feeling that way. It feels so terrible for his family. Your world changes in an instant. We get to go continue to coach football and go home to our families. And the same thing with our players. We get a chance to have their families this weekend and everything else, and that's not reality for the Clark family anymore. So it's a perspective builder, and so I hurt for them. I hurt for his children. And we walk by his office every single day. It's untouched. You see his family pictures in there, and I pray for his kids.
Alex, how do you what was been your message to the players? I mean, Scott talked a little bit about the message overall, but what have you been message to your guys? I mean, they obviously had interaction with Shawn. I mean, but what's been kind of to kind of maybe get them through what's been a really tough, difficult time?
Yeah, and that's, I think, probably the hardest part is you don't even know what message you want to give yourself because you're in a scenario where, you know, what do you like on third down? They don't cancel the game. They don't, I think me stories, but I remember my father-in-law passed away. I remember picking up food at a restaurant on Saturday night after the funeral, and the whole, just with the family all day, your whole world has absolutely been rocked, and it never go back to normal. When you go to the restaurant, pick up food, it's just a Saturday night for everybody else, and it just smacks you right in the face. And that's our reality, and a much smaller scale than what it is to be a member of his family. And so that's probably the hardest part, is you don't know what messaging you're giving yourself, and you feel like every time you're focused on football, that you're doing wrong by him. And so, you know, doing as much same as we can. Obviously, it's a great distraction for the guys once you get on the grass, and you're forced to kind of just thrust into to that. But no, I don't claim to be good at it, and I'm not sure that we've done a great job. I don't know if we can.
Coach, what are some of the biggest takeaways from the North Carolina game that you look to either hone in on or improve on when going into this big ball?
Yeah, I mean, the answer every week, you know, we got to improve in every area, right? And so I saw from an effort standpoint, I thought I was pleased. You know, the minute you say something, you kind of worry about the messaging to your guys in terms of saying, okay, that's as hard as we possibly can play. But I like the effort piece. I think we've kind of talked about it in here. We call knockdown pieces of a play that might go for 5 yards and is knocked down for 7, as opposed to being a fatal defensively. I saw that, and then we've seen that for the most part in the first couple of weeks, not just this past weekend. And that's got to be a statement for who we are and what we are. When everything goes right for an offense, and they get yards, not points, then you're kind of you know, working in the right direction. Obviously, we want everything to be a TFL in the game type of thing. But I thought the effort was good. And obviously disappointed with the long drive in the third. The messaging on that as well is there's plenty of opportunities to get off the field. We got to make a play to do that, play or plays. And so there's from a takeaway standpoint, obviously very pleased. 2 takeaways and just how the impact that can have on a game. But at the same token, you only get 2, and you got them so early. What happens in the rest of the opportunities over the course of the game? Because you know, obviously tilted in our favor early, and then all of a sudden it gets swung back in their favor, and they're able to get a hand on the football or something like that. So just some early successes that way. So there's a lot to coach off of, you know, through the first 3 weeks. And, certainly excited to get the outcome we got.
How have you seen the players coping and handling practice through this adversity?
Yeah, I think, you know, for them it's go play football. You know, I'd say that it's not fair to have them do that, but it's what's required. I think they've done a good job of it. I think you know, it's as you structure things and you're in the meeting room, the walkthroughs, and you're on the practice field. You know, it's day and age where guys don't probably tell you as much as maybe they used to, because we're all kind of new, and so it's a unique atmosphere that way. But I think they've handled it well. I think what's again doing what's been required of them in that moment is kind of how I would describe doing it well. And so try to honor it this weekend.
Obviously, Coach Clark was closer to the offense, but how have you seen players on the defensive side of the ball kind of helping lift the team up, and how have you seen players just generally?
Yeah, I think it would be a question specifically to the players, you know, as they're around each other and those things. You know, it's one thing Coach Frost has done a tremendous job in his time here, better than some places in the country in terms of you don't feel the OD like we're separate programs or something along those lines. But you know, I see, you know, I sat next to me in team meetings, and there's a void, and I want to make real sure in my time there no one sits in that chair, which has nothing to do with me, but has everything to do with him. And, but no, I think the guys have kind of around each other.
In the time you guys work together, what's kind of your lasting memories of Shawn and the relationship you guys have started to build?
Well, you know, all of us have had tough moments in this business, you know, and you never want to compare an assistant coach to a head coach, and you just know that chair is so much different what you have to deal with. But you got a unique perspective as a guy that was a head coach for a long time, especially at a place he loves so much. And, I think as coaches, maybe sometimes you think you're sharing the trauma of losing football games and not having successes that you expect to have or had at other times and stuff like that. But it sometimes has a tendency to kind of bring guys together in terms of shared experiences and those things. And so, he was one of those guys that just showed great perspective in it. Was a uniquely funny guy and had a great humor about him. Obviously seriousness when it came to the football side of things. But a guy you could ask about his head coaching perspective on certain elements, things that have those type of conversations as an assistant coach. You think you have all the answers. He'd been in that chair type of thing. Just as you talk football, but family guy, and when players are coming up to him and asking him how his son's doing in baseball and some of those things, there's no box score on the paper, so he's talking about it, which is really, really cool. So that's a shared experience with that.
Coach, first road game in the season as well, Big 12 opener. What's your message to the team as you prepare for the challenge ahead?
Yeah, I think the opportunity to go on the road, you got to embrace it. You got to remind yourself why you decided to play Power 4 football. Some guys played at this level, some guys haven't. Obviously, just a great environment this past weekend, so it's not they're cheering for you as opposed to against you. But just as a competitor, when the crowd is quiet, things are going well. When you get on the road, but you got to be able to handle the other side of it. And adversity, as much as you feel it at home, it kind of rains down on the road. And so then you got to decide if a bunch of guys in purple are clapping, if that's going to wreck you. Or can you stick your chest out, your shoulders back, and kind of respond to those moments. And so until you're in them together, which again, that's the uniqueness of new programs every year type of thing, new guys, we got to see it through together and then expect them to obviously attack adversity and those things. We have not had adversity, but again, they'll say it a different way on the road. And again, I think for most guys as competitors, it excites you, and the crowd is raining down.
What are the challenges that Avery Johnson and really the Kansas State offense presents to your defense this weekend?
Yeah, the multiplicity. I'm fortunate I have history with them. I say unfortunate for a reason. And this comes out complete respect to that staff and what they do and how they attack you and use their weapons. And, the quarterback has always been a big piece of the puzzle for them. You got a guy that speed traits, keep plays alive. He can make bad plays good. He's got the arm to direct it downfield. He gets sloppy in some of those things. He can sell out for the run. He can beat you over top. And then they got some weapons from the skill standpoint, which again is just historically them. Whether it's coming from the backfield, it's tailback, wide receiver. The speed is different. You got to respect that. But it's very difficult to pinpoint. Going against these guys, this is what you need to stop. You can start there, and then you the list can just get longer and longer and longer. And we got a quarterback with some experience and comes in and fire and battle, which he's doing this year. And you just, again, the word respect comes out, so you better respect him. You better not let, kind of like I mentioned, is the good play offensively turn into a fail. You got to go fight and scratch and claw and keep on the end.
Maybe a lot of times Lewis Carter had seen the field, so obviously the target didn't play against A&T in the bye week. So how do you think he performed coming back and it looked like he played really well against UNC?
Yeah, I tried really hard not to be too positive, just because you want to leave the carrot out for the guys. But it was fun to watch on Saturday. That was, and you got to give credit to him, and then obviously Coach Malfrey, Coach Love, and all those things. But there's 20 again. And you kind of knew it in the moment as you're watching it in real time in the game, and you get the iPads on the sideline. But you kind of, maybe you give yourself too much credit. Well, that's a good call. That was a human that knocked that thing down. That it kept being 20. You watch it on film on Sunday, and it just it was a great job by him. It was a great performance. Again, I'd love to minimize it. He's got to do it again and all those things, but he's a football playing dude now, and we need him to be forced. But big fan of those.
Alex, what have you seen for that front defensive line? Last few weeks, you've got a lot of good pressure. You knocked I think you knocked 3 quarterbacks out, to be honest with you, in the last 2 games. But what have you seen from that group's pressure, maybe, that you guys have been able to apply?
Yeah, I think, you know, the bar keeps moving as you go through it, you know, the more, you know, disruption that you have, and now we want to see the production to come up with it. And there's certainly some moments where we're really close, and like I joke, I kind of, with the guys that kind of nerd out on TFLs and sacks and stuff like that, you know, but that doesn't, in the end, is that the end all be all? No, that it's, you know, trying to keep them out of the end zone. So I know being disruptive and doing your job and stuff like that, sometimes if you just stick with it a little bit, we can get you there just a half a click sooner. The production then will go up. So not a negative, I don't turn it into a negative, but I think that's something that we do have a high expectation for. Okay, the bar, okay, we expect to be where we're supposed to be. We're making plays out near the line of scrimmage at times, which is good. We're affecting quarterbacks, which is good. Now we just like to see more negative plays. And selfishly, not just that, they do too, believe me, but the impact that it can have on drives. You know, getting offensive behind. The difference between 2nd and 9 and 2nd and 12, I know it's 3 yards, but it can be astronomical over the course of a game and what it means to an offense, the pressure it puts on, and some of those things. So, been pleased without question. And again, just trying to keep moving the bar up because I think we got some guys that do some things.
Coach, the Wildcats are one of the highest teams in the Big 12 in terms of the least amount of penalties that they draw. Just after last game, just what do you do to keep this team disciplined so that way you don't get to 3 yards?
Yeah, I think that there's obviously a number of different waste penalties happen. Some of them are aggressive penalties. Some of them are extremely stupid penalties. They're not a way to say it. The one thing for us from a discipline standpoint, when you're disciplined, you can let your instincts take over. When you're disciplined, you can think about job description. You can think about how you're going to get to the quarterback, for instance. We're talking about the defensive front. Be the same thing on the back end. With discipline, you think about playing football as opposed to grabbing receivers or some of those things that you think about defensive penalties. Those are the most common as you go through it. And so, no, discipline matters because it gives you a chance to make a play. You know, the minute I make a penalty, an egregious one, that whether it's a pre-snap one, and we want to pin our ears back. We want to go. We want those guys, certainly not scared to get off the ball because that has an impact. Get off is real, but at the same token, obviously we got to make sure we keep the ball, not listen to the sound and all those things. So we're coaching it, believe it, from a discipline standpoint. And part of the messaging, regardless of penalties, is that the minute I have one, I negate the ability for myself to make a play, and I negate the ability for anyone else on the defense to make a play. It's the reality we'll never know. For instance, we would pick the other week because, and then it's negated because of a penalty. So I think one, it's messaging, and then 2, I think they certainly understand it. But all that being said, we certainly want an aggressive unit. You guys get ready to get off the road.
Can I have 2 questions? Is that okay? First question, just, when the conference play starts, it feels like it's another level of the season. Just how anxious are you to see your defense go against the Big 12?
Yeah, without question. I think there's reason there's conferences, and there's commonality as you start going through the conference. Obviously, week 1's obviously a little bit different because you're not seeing all the crossover film as you go through the season, but you get a sense that you're seeing whether you're evaluating other defenses versus the offense you're playing on a particular week. You just very quickly I don't know, it becomes more of an in-house project as you go through the conference because you get the common opponents and everything else. And there's a respect standpoint too to the conference that you play in. And there's good football, there's good offense in particular, specifically as it applies to us. And so you know that you're not going to get a Saturday off. Obviously starting this weekend and the environments that's attached to it. We're not a place with unique rivalries historically, but on the same note, you're in a place where you're going to create them, and you can only create them by winning some games. So we've got a pretty big task to create that.
Just my last question. I mean, no matter what this season's going to be, how do you as coaches lean into each other and into the work to kind of get through it when mentally and emotionally it can be tough for you, Matt?
Yeah, I think there's a number of things over the course of the season. I think sometimes too, as coaches, if you're not careful, you can almost create a scenario where you're different than the general population. And why? Because we coach football, or names are in the paper or it's reported every week in terms of wins and losses and stuff like that. And so I think it's real critical that as you go through it, you say perspective, and sometimes it's not to be overly dramatic, it's almost like an enlightenment there. You got to remind yourself that, you know, everyone else is going through the same thing. You try to get the outcome every weekend. You do or you don't, and you try to go do it again the next weekend, and you try to do great by these guys. You don't get them as long as we used to, so those relationships are different. But man, what an awesome responsibility it is for us to try to make them play their best football of their careers. And you're still, as a coach, your responsibility to say, if you weren't here, they wouldn't have the same experience. And so you want it to be a situation where you get them to play above their ability level in terms of your time with them. And then, you know, specific to the scenario now, losing Coach Clark is just an awesome responsibility on our part to somehow honor him. You can put a patch on jerseys. There's a lot of things you can do, and none of it feels right and all those things. But yeah, it's just it's a responsibility to make him proud and give his family something to look to over the next couple of weeks.